Wrestling fans, are you ready? For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, let's get ready to rumble!
And now, please welcome at this time your hosts, Graham GSM Matthews and RJ Marceau. You're listening to the next era of wrestling radio. This is WrestleRant Radio.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WrestleRant Radio for Thursday, May 23rd, 2024. I'm Graham G.C. Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great week so far. We got another interview on the show today, this time with Zack Heydorn, the author of Stunning, the Wrestling Artistry of Steve Austin, available right now on Amazon. Zack, from his own perspective, does a pretty fascinating deep dive of the in-ring career of the Texas Rattlesnake himself, through his best matches and moments and stuff like that. It's a really cool concept for a book, so we're going to talk all about it here today on the show with Zack himself, and then throw it to Mr. Marceau for previews and predictions for Double or Nothing and WWE King and Queen of the Ring this weekend, and some thoughts on some breaking news on the SummerSlam location for 2026. Yeah, not 2024, not 2025, but 2026. We get into that, the two-night SummerSlam conversation, and so much more in the second half of the show. New episodes of WrestleRant Radio available every single week, available every single Thursday specifically, usually, on all your favorite podcast platforms. Rate the show, review the show, subscribe to the show. Never miss a new episode every single week. Now, with that being said, guys, enjoy my exclusive interview with Zack, talking all things Stunning, the wrestling artistry of Steve Austin. Graham G.S. Matthews here with WrestleRant. We're talking to Zack Heydorn here today, the author of the all-new Stunning, the Wrestling Artistry of Steve Austin. Zack, I've been following you for a while now. First time chatting face-to-face over audio, over video. Great to have you, man. Great to have you for such an awesome occasion. Congrats on the release of your new book.
Thank you so much, man. Yes, I've admire of your work. You do some great stuff, and it's an honor to be here, and I really appreciate it. It's been a fun week, and glad to have the show be a part of it.
So we're talking on Monday. First of all, thanks. I appreciate that. But yeah, we're talking on Monday. The book comes out on Friday, just 3 days ago. And as I said to you a second ago before we hit record, you have it on Amazon now. You have like the physical book in your hands. You got that a little while ago, but now it's like publicly available for everyone to have. And you had your everyone that signed up early getting the book. What's been like the feedback like for you in the last couple of days, just seeing all that online?
I mean, it's been incredible. I mean, just people getting it in general is just a really cool thing to obviously get it out, because it's like you and the computer, right? And like, that's it until the book goes out. And so I'm just glad that people can get it, and people seem excited to get it. And that means a lot. Like, people that I don't know and people that just follow my work and are interested in the project. It's really cool to see happen. And then it's a process. Like, writing a book it's a long process. It's arduous at times. There's ups and downs in terms of like your momentum for it and all of that. And so to see it come together and actually be out in the wild is just, it's pretty cool. And I hope people pick it up, and hopefully people enjoy it. And if not, like, let me know that too. You know, I'm looking for feedback one way or the other.
Well, listen, dude, it's been in the works for a while. Like I was telling you before we hit record here, I know you announced it about a year ago, I think on 3/16 day, right?
Yes, correct.
Obviously, it was in the process of being made even well before that. So how long did the process take to get this book made?
So this was a 3-year process, little over. So we everything came together on what the idea is and what the book's going to look like and all that about 3 years ago. And so, it took about 11-12 months to write it all. And then it was another year plus to edit it and make sure that it's crisp from a book perspective, that it's ready for print and it makes sense and all that. And that was definitely the arduous process of just editing it and reading it. I've read this thing so many times. Somebody asked me yesterday, are you going to read it now that you have the hard copy? And I'm like, no, probably not. maybe give it a couple years and then I'll pick it up again. But so it just was such a process. And then after that, it was like getting it laid out and getting the artwork put into it and making sure that all was there. And then it kind of just happened after that. So all those things together just made for, it just doesn't happen overnight. And I had a great publisher at Hybrid Shoot, and Jonathan Snowden, who wrote the Shamrock book and some other MMA books, and just has some other great work out there. Was a big help in not only spearheading the editing process and the layout process and all that, but also a mentor for how this is supposed, how this goes. And so, but 3 years, I mean, in a way, it went by fast, and in other ways, it's like, holy cow, it's been 3 years since we started this. So it's a bit of it's a cool journey to reminisce back on.
Oh, no, yeah, I'm sure. And the cool thing about it, too, is that it's not like your average, it's not a biography. Like, you're breaking down, it literally is what the title suggests. You're breaking down the art form of not wrestling in general, but specifically Steve Austin, his matches from over the course of his career. I mean, how much Stone Cold content do you have to consume to write this book? And are you sick of seeing Stone Cold matches after all this time?
I was at a certain point, like after I wrote the book and after the first draft was done, I was like, okay, I'm not watching Steve Austin for a long time.
Yeah.
But he's such a good wrestler that it's easy to get back into it.
Of course.
I had to watch a lot of Steve Austin matches. I mean, a lot. And I mean, that was the point. That was the idea. That was the whole goal of the project, was to examine his work from the beginning of his career to his last match. And the only way to do that was to dive in. And so, like, I was excited for that part of it. Like, that was like I said, writing the book and researching it and watching that stuff was definitely really exciting. And, luckily, like, there wasn't a whole lot of, oh man, like, I got to track down this match or I got to track down that match, because a lot of his work is out there, either in like on Peacock with the WWE network, or there's a lot of it on YouTube where other, some collectors have some stuff. So that wasn't as heavy of a lift as I thought it was going to be. So then, I just got to kick back and just watch Steve Austin matches. And, they're very different, like, throughout his career, depending on what era that you're talking about. Like, whether it's his early rookie year and you're watching his stuff against Chris Adams in 1990 or 1991, you're turning on WCW to watch Stunning Steve. And then he's got that era with the Hollywood Blondes. So you're seeing him in a tag team environment. And then, all through, Ringmaster and ECW Steve Austin and early Stone Cold stuff, and like the height of his, popularity. So it was a lot, but it also was, he's got a diverse mix of stuff for his career. And so, kind of that freshened things up a bit as I went along. But no, I've struggled to find like a Steve Austin match that I haven't seen. Like, I've seen a lot of them now, and I write about a lot of them. There's some cool hidden gems, that I found along the way. And the way the book is structured, it's structured by those eras that I just talked about. And within each one, in addition to like the artistic analysis that I do on his matches, which is like the essence of the book, I also have a section in there that is just kind of like hidden gem matches that maybe you didn't see, or maybe you have seen, but just you should see again. And that was really fun, like seeing some of those. I remember I came across, it was Steve Austin against Goldust in 1997, Shotgun Saturday Night, in like the bar setting in 1997 for that show. And I was just like, whoa, like this is like right where he's about to like really take off. And he's in a bar wrestling Goldust. Like, this is cool. So there was a lot of fun finds like that too.
I mean, the book is obviously going to answer this question, but like, and I guess you kind of answered it right there. Why Steve Austin? Like, what part of the process comes first where, like, I want to do a book on Steve and I feel like exploring the art form of his matches is what I want to do? Or is it like, I want to do something different than most wrestling books? I want to do like the art form and explore that. And I feel like Steve Austin would be a good fit. So like, what part of that process kind of came first? And again, you answered in the book, obviously, but like, why him when from that era and even eras before that, and even now, there's so many different people you could have done this for?
Yeah. So the process actually went the other way. Like, so I started with an idea of wanting to do a book, a wrestling book that hasn't really been done before. That was like the initial goal.
Yeah.
So I wanted to stand out and have my own little space and niche or whatever. And there wasn't a lot of books that talk about wrestling.
There's not. Yeah.
So I wanted to do that. And that was kind of where the pitch started of like, hey, I want to do a book on the artistry of wrestling. And thankfully, Jonathan was like, that is a really big, like just an incredibly wide net, because you're talking about like just an insane amount of wrestling, like WWE all the way to like Japan and Mexico. And like, it's too big. So great idea, but let's focus it on one specific, like make it more focused by focusing on like a specific talent. And I was like, that's when like the dam opened. I'm like, wow, perfect. That makes a heck of a lot more sense.
Yep.
It's more enjoyable for the reader and is just, could feasibly execute something like that. So once we got to that point, Steve Austin to me was like a relatively easy decision, because I wanted to do somebody that not only I felt was just like a great in-ring wrestler throughout his career, but also somebody that delivered as a really big star too. Like, because I think those two things should go hand in hand in a lot of instances. And then when I started breaking down Austin's career, what I started seeing was like, there are things that he does in 1990, 1991 that he keeps in his like toolbox of stuff that he breaks out in 1998, 1999. And what I started realizing is a lot of these things, like just how he interacts with the crowd, how he's able to capture the crowd. And when he doesn't have the audience, how does he hook them? What does he do? Like, to me, that's the art form of wrestling, like maintaining that connection with your audience and keeping them invested in your matches, in your promos or whatever it is. And he had a real knack for that attempt from the very first match of his career. Like, if you watch the first match, and we do cover that in the book, he like is constantly like in tune, looking for something in the audience to connect to keep him hooked. And that lasts all the way to the match with Kevin Owens at WrestleMania 38. So we were able to find like that thread, and noticing it made it even more of a, okay, we got to do it on this guy, because I think he's not a Will Ospreay in the ring. He's not a Bryan Danielson in the ring. But his work manipulates the crowd always. And that to me is like what the art of wrestling really is. And so once I kind of recognized that, I'm like, all right, this is where we're going. I'm diving in.
I mean, coming out of a project like this, obviously, as you just mentioned, you come away with a bigger appreciation for Steve Austin, not only as just a performer, but like in the ring and his matches specifically. Because you think back in that era of the Attitude Era and how successful it was, and you talk about that in the book and whatnot, and how big of a part of that he was. I don't think, I mean, there obviously was great matches, but I think the best era for matches arguably could be today or even a different time period. You're not getting a lot of 5-star classics in the late 90s, early 2000s during that Attitude Era period, specifically from Steve Austin. But do you think after doing the research for this book, do you think you not only come away from that with that bigger appreciation, like I said, but like not that he gets flack, because everyone knows that either he's the greatest of all time or one of the greatest of all time. That's the overall package. But just talking about in the ring, though, because post-neck injury, post-neck surgery, whatever, he clearly was not the same performer that he was in the matches that you were alluding to earlier from earlier on in his career. But he still did do a lot of the great things and capturing that art form, like you said. So where do you fall in that debate as far as like his in-ring work post-neck injury and how he didn't really hold up the same? Or was it great enough to where that didn't even really matter because he was kind of finding different ways to manipulate the crowd that were a bit more difficult?
Yeah, I mean, I consider him one of the best, like, in the ring, and a big reason for that is those crowd reactions. Like, I mean, like, look, like at the end of the day, like that's what it's about. Like, like it's about taking your audience on a ride. Like, there are a lot of people. Like, conceivably, one of us could learn how to do a hurricane run, right? Like, but can you make that matter? And can you make it mean something? And can you make it pull the necessary reaction out of the audience? Like, that to me is like, that's the real hook. And that's what separates, the like good wrestlers from the great ones. There are a lot of tremendous wrestlers that don't get to a level of Bryan Danielson because they can't layer in on top the other elements of that to make people care. Same thing with Will Ospreay. There's a lot of high flyers out there that you can put on, Triller or IWTV, and you can see a lot of cool moves, but part of what makes Will Ospreay so great is he's able to take it and make the audience care about it. And Steve Austin, he did that, and he did that in his own way, in his own era. And there's crowd reactions there that are unmatched, in the history of the wrestling business, period. And so I think that when I look at wrestling, that counts for a lot. And that's part of what I try to outline in the book and try to showcase in the book is why that matters and where it came from. But also, like you said, he changed his style because of his injury. I mean, there's no question. With early part of his career as studying Steve, one of the things that I always note, and reading it back, I'd probably go, man, I really note this a lot, maybe too much. But the snap on his bumps is incredible. Like he hits that mat with like a purpose, and it really puts over just the violence of his matches and like puts over his opponent. It's a really like cool thing. And he doesn't do it as much in his Stone Cold run because he's hurt and he doesn't take a ton of those flat backs, but he does other things. He totally pivots his character into this brawler, and he doesn't need to do a lot of moves because it's not necessary. He's got people want to see him go out there and have a fist fight with somebody. So I think he is really underrated in terms of listening to the crowd, adapting the style, working with them to get the reaction that he wants. And it's like a push-pull. It's a push-pull thing constantly. I think he just does it like with one of the best. He's one of the best at it. And I hope that, we paint that picture well in the book. I think we do.
And you mentioned with Will Ospreay too, you kind of see some of that in him and other performers across the companies right now. Is it like when you do the research for the book and you explore and discuss and analyze that art form, is it a lost art form today, or is it being kept alive through enough people like a Will Ospreay or other people in WWE, or is it more like a far and few between thing where you see it in today's performers, but not a lot of people?
That's a great question, man. I think it's just a little bit different because I think there's just a different type of investment now than there was back then. Like now it's like you go to a wrestling show and you want to see somebody have a really good match. And not that like Steve Austin didn't want to have good matches, but I think it was the investment there was, boy, we want to see Steve Austin beat up Vince McMahon. Like that's so cool. And we want to see him win and see him keep his championship. And now it's like, all right, we're playing along a little bit more. We just want to see Will Ospreay have a really cool match so that we can say we have. And I think though, you can't fault somebody like Will Ospreay for seeing that discourse and go, okay, well, I'm listening to that audience, and so that's what I'm going to do. So it's a little different, but I think there's always in professional wrestling, as we talked about, that's the end game. Those reactions, the investment, manipulating the crowd to feel a certain way. In any era, that is the end game. And so I think that still lives today in current day performers. Cody Rhodes, I think, is somebody that's really good at tapping into that in this kind of new era of just a different time period in wrestling. I think he's really great at it. I think Seth Rollins is really great at it. So it's different, but I think ultimately the end game still plays the same.
I think it works so well, too, the book and the formatting of it and just your idea for it is because it comes from your perspective. Obviously, as a lifelong fan, you have the expertise. You've seen a lot of fucking wrestling, watching a lot of Steve Austin wrestling. So it has that unique perspective as opposed to someone breaking down their own matches or someone else from the business, which is also interesting in and of itself. But I just feel like nowadays with a lot of these wrestlers already kind of having podcasts and books, I don't know, fans, obviously we have a lot of, we're talking right now, but coming from just the perspective that you have on it specifically and the amount of research, it's not just that you're watching a match, you're really analyzing the art form and breaking down. So it's really just like a match anatomy of many sorts with a lot of just his bigger known matches, lesser known matches and stuff like that. Did it ever, obviously Steve Austin is one of the biggest stars of all time. He's kind of elusive in the sense where not really on social media much, doesn't do a lot of interviews nowadays. He's kind of like a recluse, doesn't really pop up in wrestling much. Did it ever cross, obviously, to not have him involved in the project? But is it still a hope at some point where this book could maybe cross his path, get some eyes on it from him? Because I think, as someone who has listened to his podcast, he's broken down a lot of his matches and he has a great eye for this sort of stuff. I feel like he'd really appreciate a project like this.
The wheels are in motion to get him a copy of the book for sure.
Nice.
It's as you mentioned, it's not easy to get access to him. Hopefully, yes, we can get him a book, and hopefully people who are watching this can help make that happen by getting it on his radar. But yeah, I hope so. Because I think if nothing else, he'd be able to give some cool feedback on it, and just for my own sense of like, he has the book. That's a good thing. So yeah, that would be awesome. There were preliminary, like at the beginning of the process of writing the book, there was thoughts of even hopes to like bounce some of this off of him or get like a Austin take section on the different matches. But he's got there's a lot of contractual obligations that didn't align to have him involved in an independent project like this. So he wasn't. And then but honestly, by the end, I think it worked better that way because, as you said, it is like my take on that. And you could watch the same slate of matches and maybe see some of the same stuff, but also see some different things too. So it works in that end where it is a completely like independent analysis of his run in its entirety. And so I think in the end we landed in a good spot even without him.
I think I've seen a couple of wrestling books come on the last couple of years, and it seems like someone who always appreciates a copy of this sort of stuff and would definitely read it and check it out. I don't know how you would get a hold of him. I don't have his number. Bret Hart, I feel like, is someone, if you could get in touch with him or somehow get him a copy of the book or something, get his eyes on it, he would not only read it, but he would give you feedback. Just from other stuff that I've seen, and he feels like the type of guy. I mean, he was involved in some of these matches, so like,
One of the fun parts about writing about the Steve Austin was I got to write a lot about Bret too, because of those matches that he had with him, and we covered the Survivor Series match, and obviously we cover in great detail the WrestleMania 13 match in Chicago. So that's great call. I'm literally gonna like scour some resources right after this to try to get him a copy.
I feel like he'd be the perfect person for it. Obviously with his run in the ring, not lasting as long as it probably could have, should have, whatever, retiring at an early age, obviously coming back for the one more match a couple of years ago, but we missed out on a lot of Steve Austin. I mean, for as long as we had him in the ring across all these companies, he had an incredible run, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't be talking about it right now. How do you think his in-ring work would have stood the test of time? Like even by 02, 03, obviously he was still a massive star, but like the whole thing, from 02 when he walked out and they were going to have him job to Brock and like the opening round of the King of the Ring or whatever it was. I don't know if he would have been still at the same level that he was at the Attitude Era. I don't know when he would have retired. I don't know if we're talking late 2000s, early 2010s. It's weird to imagine Steve Austin in like the PG era of WWE being the same character. Do you think, I mean, obviously his in-ring work from that period has stood the test of time. How do you think his legacy, as someone who's done so much research on him, would have either changed or been modified or whatever had he stuck around longer? Like someone like a Hulk Hogan was around for a really long time, never really had a last match, and his in-ring work obviously faded as time went on. And he's no Steve Austin in the ring, obviously. But just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would have been difficult. I mean, not to like necessarily like sustain his star power, because I think he has everlasting star power in wrestling just because of what he was. So I think there's always like he'd always have like the pops, and I generally think that would be there.
Definitely.
I think his reaction would be a lot like Undertaker's, in terms of like, okay, Steve Austin's here, we cheer. But unlike Undertaker, the Austin character, it doesn't work as well like one-off stuff like Undertaker did to kind of keep his career longer. I don't know, for whatever reason, like it just seems to me like the character works better as like, I'm here always and I'm fighting and I'm just doing what I do and we're drinking beer, we're having a good time. And whereas Undertaker, like the mystique of him like not being around and then being around, I think was okay. Austin, it's a little weirder for me to think about that. So when I look at it, I'm like, could he have had a career like John Cena where he's around for 25 years, or Randy Orton? It'd be really hard. And I think it would also be hard to see him in like a really polished WWE. Like in 1998 and 1999, like when you watch an episode of Raw, I mean, it is that it looks raw, like it's grainy at times, and but it's really like cool, it's edgy, and Stone Cold is the face of that. Well, fast forward 10 years and it's like, okay, now you're in this like super polished, like corporatized wrestling, and not that that's bad, it's just different. And so I think seeing him in that environment would have been weird. Bottom line, wink, nod, pun intended, is I think that he's a good enough performer where we would have seen a pivot in some form or fashion. Like, I think he's good enough and recognizes, like, so if we would have seen him wrestle in 2010, 2011, 2012, yes, it would have been Stone Cold Steve Austin, but I think there would have been a pivot around something to freshen it up or make that character work. He was a smart performer in that way. And so it's almost impossible to analyze because we don't know what he would have come up with, but I think it would have been something.
Especially if he were to last until that period, he would have not had the neck injury, obviously. Like, he retired in 2003 for a reason. So if he doesn't have that neck injury, then what do his matches look like? Yeah, exactly. So he would have had to evolve in some way. As we wind down here, I mean, I guess an obvious question, but after doing all the research for this book, is there any, like, is your favorite Steve Austin match still your favorite Steve Austin match? Or is there another one that comes to mind? Like, what are some of your top ones? I mean, maybe not anytime soon, because you're probably, like we said, sick of watching it at this point, but some of your favorite Stone Cold matches to rewatch, or promos too, I guess.
So I always, one of my favorite Steve Austin matches, even though he turns heel at the end, is the WrestleMania 17 match. I think that's one of like the perfect matches. It starts out great. I think it flows really well. They got the audience. It's one of my favorite Stone Cold matches, and like that's that. Brett and Austin at WrestleMania 13, obviously that's up there. I don't think I'm breaking any news with those two.
Yeah.
There's another match. Gosh, I wish I had the book in front of me because I love this match. It's him and The Rock at like an early, like late 1997. In your house
rock bottom things,
it's rock bottom, maybe.
I don't know why I pulled that out, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's rock bottom.
It may be rock bottom. That's what became one of my favorite matches when I was watching all this stuff, because I was like, man, this crowd is like they're boiling. Like, he is reaching like a boiling point with his popularity, and like the water's bubbling and it's about to like spill over the edge, and you can really get a sense of that, like in this match in particular. It's the one with all the spots on the truck. It's the match is the match I'm talking about, where they, he tosses D'Lo Brown on the truck, he beats everybody up, and it's like a Stone Cold Steve Austin match. There's maybe, I think there's like maybe like 5 moves in it. That's it. Like, the rest is just brawling, the crowd's going nuts. It's a really cool match to see. And then the last thing I'll say is, I enjoyed and was surprised by how much I enjoyed the Hollywood Blondes era of his career. Like, I knew it, but I didn't know it as well as I knew other eras. And so diving into that head first was really fun, because there's a lot of matches out there. Obviously, there's stuff with Flair and Arn and some really strong opponents. But also, like, what it was fun seeing is him kind of open up his personality a little bit. Like, everybody talks about that ECW, though, that time period as when like Stone Cold was born, and I think that's factually correct. And after watching it back, it's absolutely critically correct too. But you do have to fast forward a few years before that, because the Hollywood Blondes and him playing off of Brian Pillman opened him up, and it showed another side of his personality, and I think it just gave him more range as a character, and that was really fun to watch. So that was probably like I enjoyed writing that chapter most, because it was freshest to me. But also, like, you kind of see, like, whoa, like, you had this performer who was good before, but man, playing off this other guy, it opened up all sorts of personality and character traits.
That's cool. No, I think it's such a cool concept too, especially going back and exploring those early matches and stuff like that. I mean, especially with the Hollywood Blonde stuff. I mean, obviously it's a very notable run, but I think they do such a good, I mean, they don't, I feel like that stuff isn't highlighted enough. I mean, you see the occasional Twitter account like bring up some of those matches like the old school stuff, but not really do a deep dive into it the same way that you do into your book. So I think that's cool and it kind of shines some light onto that era of his career. But last question for you here, dude. Just talking about like again the concept, like I mentioned earlier, I think is so cool from your perspective personally. With all the,
Thank you.
Absolutely, with all the content you've consumed and being a fan for as long as you have and having that perspective on it. Do you have an idea to do another book like this down the road? Maybe not right now because this is such a long process, and I know it's an arduous process. To do something similar to this in a sequel on another performer that might come to mind.
I hope so. I really hope so. I had a blast writing the book, and it was a long process, but I wouldn't trade it in for anything. It was really a fun process, and rewarding, and it's great to just see people picking it up and reading it. I hope to do another one. Yeah, and when I think about, there's two guys that I think about that could make a lot of sense, and different types of wrestlers than Steve Austin. First is Shawn Michaels. I think he would be a really, really good person to do this on. Different kind of wrestler, different kind of run, just different. And then like the other one would be much bigger of an undertaking, but it'd be Ric Flair and trying to do that and just have a really big project there. There's a lot of Ric Flair stuff out there, so you have to find a way to make the project fit. But I think he's definitely a wrestler that you could do a similar type of project.
There's definitely no shortage of matches to analyze for him or for Shawn Michaels, obviously. But like I said, maybe not anytime soon. We'll let the dust settle in this one.
We'll let this breathe first. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. You deserve a break after all the work you put into making, this happen and whatnot. But speaking of which, dude, I mentioned it earlier. It's available on Amazon right now. It's cool to see it in the fine print on Amazon, seeing it there after seeing you talk about it for so long, now getting it out. But where else can people buy the book and, get their hands on it?
So right now, Amazon is like the sole place. You can get all the versions of it on Amazon. So we have a paperback version, we've got a Kindle version, and we've got another e-edition type ebook version there too. So that is the place to get it. In the future, there may be a couple other spots, but that is like the key place. It ships really soon. Like you don't have to wait a long time to get it. Right now the orders are flowing out smoothly, and so it's just a couple days. So that is where I'd point people to. That's easiest. So yeah, go there, and I hope you do, and I hope you enjoy it.
Where can people find you, dude? I know you're on the Twitter machine, and obviously you're promoting the book there. And I think is there a separate Twitter account for the book as well, or no? Or people should just follow you?
Well, follow me definitely, because I'll keep everybody up to speed. We're also going to do some fun stuff, maybe with a companion podcast. So more on that coming up. But Zack _Heydorn, Heydorn is where you can find me on Twitter. I'd also point you to Hybrid Shoot, at Hybrid Shoot. That's the publisher. They're doing a lot of promotion for the book too, and have in addition to this project, some other really cool projects in the hopper. But I think if you like this book, you'll like that too. And it's, supporting independent publishing at the same time, which is always a good thing. So you can follow them also.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate the time. Thanks for coming on. Glad we can connect over this finally, over audio, video, whatever. It will not be the last time. I'm sure I'll talk to you again soon. We'll definitely have to, maybe I'm not a beer guy. I don't drink. I've had a couple of those Steve. I just like holding the can. I just like having the can. I don't actually drink the alcohol, but maybe we can share a Steve Wise or something the next time I see you in person.
That'd be great, man. I again appreciate you having me on. It's an honor to be here, and we'll definitely catch up again real soon.
I look forward to it, man. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Big thanks to Zack for the time. As he mentioned there, the book is available right now on Amazon, so give it a read today. The video of that interview also available on the YouTube channel this coming weekend over at youtube.com/WrestleRant. Now we throw it to my conversation with Mr. Marceau, previewing Double or Nothing and King and Queen of the Ring this weekend. But before that, though, announced earlier today, SummerSlam headed to Minneapolis for a 2-night event. Mr. Marceau, brother, how's it going, and what are your thoughts on the news?
I'm doing well. I'm pretty surprised. Like you said, I mean, 2 years out, it's pretty abnormal, I would say, to announce something 2 years in advance. Maybe this is their make well for kind of screwing them from WrestleMania. So in 2 years, we'll give you SummerSlam in 2 nights. So Very interesting how far ahead they're booking this, and like you said, with the 2 nights, it's definitely something that they never have done with SummerSlam. So I'm interested. I guess we'll see what happens next year. Maybe they'll do another, maybe starting in 2025, the two nights. I don't know. Like, it just seems a little weird that they're booking it out in 2026. I don't know how they're mapping it out already, but like I said, I think it's more of a, hey, sorry, we didn't give you WrestleMania, so we'll give you a SummerSlam in 2 years.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong if you can remember. I don't know the last time they ever announced something this far in advance, aside from, like, the obvious SummerSlams in the last couple of years where I was just discussing this with you before we hit record here, but, like, back in, I don't know if they announced in 09, hey, we're going to do it for the next 7 years here at, the Kia Forum, or not the Kia Forum, whatever that, the
Staples Center.
It's the Staples Center to us. Yeah, it's the Crypto.com arena now, which is so fucking stupid. It's the Staples Center, forever will be to me. But I don't know if they announced in 09, hey, we're going to do it here indefinitely. I know they did for SummerSlam in 2014, 2015. They were like, hey, we're going to do it here through 2017, and then they tacked on an extra year in 2018. Beyond that, though, I don't know when they announced a singular standalone show this far in advance. We haven't even had SummerSlam this year, let alone next year. So I have a lot of questions here. I don't know what they're planning for next year. I don't know if that might be a Minneapolis thing, or they have like maybe that date already booked for 2025, like that weekend already booked for, I don't know, a tour or something. I have no idea how that stuff works. I mean, you would know better than I would. But maybe that's why it could be a WWE thing where they already have their eyes in a certain city for next year. Maybe it's an international show, that's why. Don't know. It's going to be Saturday, August 1st, Sunday, August 2nd. First 2-night SummerSlam ever at the U.S. Bank Stadium. That would have been the same stadium they would have done Mania at, right?
Yeah, it's the same stadium they would have done Mania at.
So, I mean, I think a couple things here. I think this has got to, maybe not necessarily confirm, but like, why SummerSlam? I mean, we talked about it a week or two ago when they announced Vegas for Mania for next year. And that's WrestleMania 41 coming up. And that one they announced really, really late, surprisingly. That's probably the latest they've ever announced Mania, at least in recent memory. But they have Mania 42, they have Mania 43, both of which, or at least Mania 42, I'm sorry, 43 would be in 3 years in 2027. They have the Mania in 2026, Mania 42 open, at least as of right now. You would think, and we discussed a few weeks ago, okay, Vegas will get it first. They, they outbidded WWE, or they outbidded Minneapolis WWE for summer or for Mania, whatever. And then, okay, we'll just give you Mania in 2026 instead. They just jumped ahead and were like, all right, we'll give you a 2-night event. It just won't be WrestleMania. It'll be SummerSlam, which the 2-night thing, I honestly think it's more so to appease the city and the officials and shit like that, because they wanted Mania, which brings in a lot of people. SummerSlam will be popular, don't get me wrong, but it's not the same thing as WrestleMania. Maybe they think that it's similar or it's equivalent. It really isn't. The amount of events they do, maybe they will up it by 2026. It's just not remotely the same thing. So I kind of feel like Minneapolis got fucking gypped here. They've been looking for a Mania for at least the last decade, and SummerSlam's cool, 2 nights and whatever, but they're getting SummerSlam. So, like I was going to say, to me, it doesn't really necessarily confirm, but does point towards someone else getting Mania in 42. Obviously not Minneapolis, but maybe the Saudi Arabia thing they were discussing. They wanted either the Rumble or Mania that year, as early as 2026 or 2027. That might be what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, I hope not. I mean, I don't think Saudi should get WrestleMania. Maybe London. I'm down with London before I would say Saudi Arabia when it comes to that aspect. But just reading the press release here, like, it looks like a woman, the president and CEO of Minnesota Sports, commented and said, we'll make the summertime wrestling extravaganza accessible for fans of all ages through a variety of festivals and ancillary events in the 20 cities, and affordable tickets to the main events at U.S. Bank Stadium for SummerSlam for all. So I don't know if maybe that was another thing. Like, obviously WrestleMania is a little bit more expensive, so maybe SummerSlam's more of an affordable thing for people in the area. I mean, it seemed like something that was highlighted in a comment. So they said they're thrilled to have SummerSlam in Minneapolis. So who knows? I mean, I'm excited. I think they should have got a big show, especially with the new stadium. So maybe they'll finally start taking SummerSlam as like the WrestleMania in the summer more seriously with a 2-night event, maybe starting that year or maybe next year as like a yearly thing, but we'll see.
That's funny that they highlight the word affordable specifically, because it's been a lot of talk lately with WWE gouging the prices for some of these shows. And again, if people are willing to pay it, then they are going to do it. Like, you and I look at those prices that they seemingly charge for Backlash, because they announced it as the highest paid arena show in WWE history. and it's in Paris, and they had to, whatever. It was a very popular show and whatnot. Ended up being a great show. But that does not really bode well for other markets and other fans as far as they're going to be charging similar prices going forward. We didn't really talk about that a couple weeks ago. But do you think that's going to carry over into the States at some point? I don't know what they're charging for SummerSlam, but do you think that might become a problem at some point where they're going to start charging an arm and a leg for these shows? As I feel like they used to, and then they went down. I haven't really followed it too closely. Obviously, prices have gone up with like inflation and shit like that, but I just feel like this might become a problem going forward. It seems like, I don't know, according to that quote that you just read off, they might be cracking down on that by August of 2026. Oh, great, like 2.5 years. But is that a worry for you, too, that they might be upping the prices for this stuff going forward now that the demand is there with the product being better and hotter?
I mean, I think that's with anything, though, like any kind of entertainment or sport at this point. I think pricing is just as high as it's ever been, obviously. I'm not sure exactly. I think a lot of these places also just have outpriced themselves. Like you said, I don't know if it's just inflation or what's going on, but, I mean, it's pretty expensive to go to any sporting event at this point. Just looking at the SummerSlam map this year, I mean, they have tickets as low as $83. And it starts kind of jumping up from there. But, I mean, I think it's going to get to a point that it's eventually too much. But I think, like you said, if they're charging it, people are paying it, they'll keep doing it. With the international shows, I think it's a little bit different because they're not pulling from, like, the same pool of people. So I guess they also don't go there that often. So I think people are more willing to pay, like, a higher premium. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I think if you keep going in the States and the prices keep going up and up and up, I mean, I think eventually people will be like, yeah, it's not worth it. But, like I said, people keep going, so I think that's one of those things, like, I mean, how many people go to the Taylor Swift shows and could only imagine how expensive the tickets are. She goes to the same city, like, 2 or 3 nights in a row, sells out every night. Prices are so expensive and people are still going. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess you think eventually it would fall off, but maybe people are just willing to spend the money, and like I said, it might eventually catch them in the back end, but right now they're just bathing in money, so they don't really care.
The other aspect of this is the fact that it's 2 nights. Like you said, they might go 2 nights starting next year, and this is just the second continuation of that. We know for a fact, unless they change it, which I don't know if you can at this point. I mean, I guess you could make it 2 nights this year. They already put tickets on sale for SummerSlam. If they want to expand it to 2 nights, I guess they could. We're a couple months out, and they could just put tickets on sale for a second day. I don't think they will. It's in Cleveland. It's a bit different than Minneapolis as far as the market and the amount of people they would probably get in that building for that show. I don't think they would make it 2 years or 2 nights this year. Probably next year, depending on where they go. But what are your thoughts on that? Because I'm kind of indifferent on it personally.
I mean, I think it all really depends on how the product is. I think that's a safe, easy answer for you, but I think that's the most logical answer. I mean, the product's ice cold and they have 2 nights. I don't know how well that would sell, but if the product's hot and you have interesting things going on, then 2 nights could sell. So I think it really depends on the product. And I mean, they're flying high right now and everything's going well, but I mean, eventually it always goes down eventually. So we'll see. But I think, like I said, it all depends on the product. I mean, if the product's white hot, you can do 3 nights. I mean, it all depends on what's going on, but I think eventually 2 nights. It's one of those things, they offer you 2 nights, and eventually the interest falls off, and then you go back to 1 night. So we'll see, but I mean, I think I like the 1 night specifically for most shows, and then WrestleMania is 2 nights. I mean, makes sense, the big show. I think you can build up enough to get 2 nights out of it, and it's like you're not sitting through 5 hours in 1 night. You kind of spread it over time, but I think we'll see what happens with SummerSlam. I would prefer 1 night, but I also do understand if you're going, like if you're traveling to a destination or a different place, like I think I would rather stay for 2 nights than 1 night or go for a longer time. So I get that aspect as well. Like if you're going to go to Minneapolis, you might as well go for 2 nights 2 nights of a show than just one night if you're spending all that time anyway. So I do get that as well.
They could do the WrestleMania formula where they do SmackDown, which I think they confirmed. USA did, NBC or whoever. I think they confirmed that it's going to be staying on Fridays in the fall. And then I would think, I'm pretty sure Raw's staying on Mondays. I think that was also confirmed or maybe just speculated on Netflix by that point. So you could just follow the WrestleMania formula by having, SmackDown in the same building on Friday, not in the arena, or not in that stadium, obviously, but a nearby arena. Probably the same arena that they did TLC. I'm looking at the press release, and they said they haven't been there for a PLE since TLC 2019, the amazing show that spawned Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin in a TLC match. Man, the product was so bad back then. So, I mean, I guess you could do SmackDown there, Raw there on Monday, make it worthwhile for people. That does make sense. I mean, from a business standpoint, like you said, if the business is hot still by 2.5 years from now, and that's a real risk, or at least close to being as hot as it is right now business-wise, then I guess money-wise it would make sense. Financially, it is logical. That being said, though, I don't know, just as far as preference goes, the big thing with Mania, making that 2 nights, which I think was always skeptical about either. I mean, I'm sure if you go back 5 years or so and we talked about it then, or if I was asked about it, I definitely would have told you I don't like the idea of Mania being 2 nights because I think it's more special as one. Nowadays, I can't even remember them going back. I can't even fathom the idea of them going back to 1 night. I just think 2 nights works a lot better. But SummerSlam is not WrestleMania. So I saw some people saying, my buddy Rick, actually, who he said on Twitter earlier today, would kind of avoid the issue of, Trish Stratus and Becky getting bumped off the SummerSlam card. Yeah, I guess, but I don't know. If it's not... SummerSlam really... Like, Mania as a 2-night thing makes sense, because it's a spectacle. SummerSlam just really hasn't been that. I honestly can't remember the last, truly great SummerSlam show. We've gotten some good ones in recent years. We've been to a few of them. They've been some good shows. They haven't been that great to warrant 2 days. I mean, they've gone over 3 hours, but they haven't been 7 hours like Mania used to be. I guess that's kind of my point. If they have a deep enough roster by mid-2026 where they can do that, I guess. But with Mania, you get the long entrances, the video packages. Are you really going to do that for SummerSlam? I just don't see them going out of their way. I just don't think, I guess my point is here, my long diatribe, I don't see them making SummerSlam more special just because it's 2 nights. Would you agree with that, or do you think that this will make SummerSlam better in the long run?
I mean, I think you would have to. Like I said, I think you would have to make it seem like a WrestleMania of the summer, like they always say, like the biggest event of the summer. I feel like you kind of would have to go with that tagline and kind of go all the way with it. I mean, I think if they're going to do it like WrestleMania, it should all, like I said, they should have they should do the meet and greets and all that stuff the week leading into it and stuff like that. They should do a SummerSlam Access and kind of make it like the talk of the town for the weekend. Mm-hmm. I think the last few years when we went to Detroit and Nashville, I mean, Friday night, both times, the SmackDown wasn't even in the city. So it's oh, we're here. Okay, SmackDown's not here, so we kind of twist our thumbs for a night, which isn't always that bad, but it would be nice to go to SmackDown before and other things to go to kind of ramp it up to make it seem like a bigger thing. I think if you're going to do 2 nights, you might as well just do everything. So I think that's the right approach. I mean, that's how I think. And if you're going to do it, you might as well go all the way. But we'll see what happens.
When you say go all the way, that includes making maybe the Rumble 2 nights? And I don't know about Survivor Series, but...
No, I wouldn't make Rumble 2 nights.
Do you think that this could start that trend, though? I mean, that was always the talk with Mania, where it's if we got 2 nights for this, then they can make 2 nights for everything else. Not for every pay-per-view, that'd be fucking ridiculous. But, that hasn't happened. We've had 2 nights Mania, 2-night Manias now for 4 years? And we're only now getting our first 2-night SummerSlam. And I got a question back in January. I honestly think... I don't like the idea. I honestly think it would make more sense to almost make the Rumble 2 nights because you could have 1 Rumble on one night and 1 Rumble on the other. I don't like the idea. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if you were going to make any other Big 4 pay-per-view 2 nights, that one would almost make more sense because the Rumbles are an hour each, hour plus each. Separate them up by night. That would make more sense to me. Making SummerSlam 2 nights just doesn't make a whole lot of sense because it's not, I don't know. I mean, it's a special show, but it's not Mania. So do you think, I know you don't want to see it, but do you fear that could be next?
I hope not. That sounds really, honestly, it sounds really bad. I mean,
that's a lot of wrestling.
I understand what you're saying, and I totally get it. WrestleMania or Royal Rumble is long. You have the 2-hour Rumbles. You have 2 other matches on the show, so it usually goes around 3 hours. but I don't know, 2 nights of Royal Rumble doesn't seem right to me. I mean, I'm kind of out on that because it's like, I mean, most of the people are in the Royal Rumble matches anyways. I think that's like so what else you can do? Like other title matches, and these people won't be in the Rumble. So I don't think you have enough star power to do that. But I mean, I guess I wouldn't do it though.
No, that's a good point, though. I think the Rumble for the last few years has been like a 5-match card. I mean, I think it was. I remember watching the show like a million times because I love that show. Royal Rumble 2011, when you went like 13, 14 years ago at this point, was also like a 4-match show. I mean, that was the 40-man Rumble. That wasn't, 2 different Rumbles, but it was basically 2 Rumbles in one. And they didn't really have a whole lot of other matches on the show. Same thing with this year. It was a longer show because the 2 Rumbles. But I feel like it's somewhere in the middle where it's a longer show, but it's not long enough to make it 2 days. Because you're right, because what am I going to have fucking, I don't know, Akira Tozawa and Otis on the undercard? I mean, come on. Just because it is 2 nights doesn't mean you have to fill it out for 2 nights. Even though you have the Rumbles to do it, I don't really like that idea. Same thing with Money in the Bank. That's even worse, I think, because the Money in the Bank matches are not an hour each. The Rumbles I can almost see. The Money in the Bank matches are like 20 minutes, 30 minutes max. That does not need to be a 2-night show. I hope it stops here. I don't even like SummerSlam going 2 nights personally, but financially I understand why it makes sense. The Rumble, I'm not as sold on. And the difference with the Rumble, too, we talk about financially. Have they done that in a stadium for the last couple years? I'm trying to think. I don't think so, right? I mean, they did it in Tampa, a baseball park this year. It was in San Antonio last year, but it was in they did Mania.
It was at the Alamo Dome.
The Alamo Dome. Okay, that's a big dome, but I mean they really didn't market those shows as tourist attractions, right? So I don't even know if a 2-night Mania would work unless they were to do it in a big ass stadium, which I guess you could, but I don't really like that idea.
I mean, you could do with the Rumble, but like I said, I'm kind of out on that idea.
Yeah, no thanks. We do have 2 nights of wrestling this weekend, not the same consecutive show, though. They are 2 totally different events, so we'll get to that now. King and Queen of the Ring will start there on Saturday, followed by Double or Nothing on Sunday. So King and Queen of the Ring on Saturday. We all, again, like I just said, we talked about the Rumble, 5 matches, shorter card. That's exactly what the show is. This might be the new trend going forward. This is a trend I can get behind. Not 2 nights for every pay-per-view on the calendar, the Big 4, whatever. I like the idea of the smaller B shows being only 5 or 6 matches. Backlash was 5 matches. I thought that was a great B show. I don't know if this one's going to match up, but I do think it will be a very good show. So we have the finals of the King and the Queen of the Ring tournaments and 3 championship matches. So we'll start with 2 of the title matches first, King and Queen of the Ring, and then get to the main event. But we have Sami Zayn defending the Intercontinental Championship against Chad Gable and Bronson Reed. So Gable beat Zayn on Monday. He went heel about a month ago. He still has Otis with them and Maxine and Akira, whatever. They haven't turned on him yet. Otis did attack Sami on Monday, but he didn't turn heel with him. He did actually apologize to Sami after the fact backstage. So is this where and should this be where Chad Gable becomes champion? I don't think Bronson Reed becomes champion. I think he just might get pinned here, which is a shame. I like Bronson, but I don't think he's winning. I think either Sami retains by pinning Bronson or Gable becomes champion. I'm still kind of torn, so I'm going to throw it to you first. Who do you think comes out on top here, as I always do?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I think it's either Zayn or Gable. With Zayn losing on Raw, I feel like there's a good chance he wins here. If he, I don't know, like the whole Otis thing, like, yeah, he did help Chad on Raw, but I don't know, I don't think they'd have him lose back-to-back here. That just doesn't seem kind of like booking-wise. So I'm going to say Sami retains, beats Bronson. Maybe we get like the breakup between Chad and Otis at King of the Ring, and that distracts Chad. Something happens, and then like I said, Sami just pins Bronson. I think Sami wins here.
You know, I had Chad Gable going over because I've said in the last couple of weeks, I think it'd be stupid if he continues to lose when it matters most in these championship matches. I mean, I feel like I'm talking about Jey Uso right now, but Gable's a bit different because he did go heel. It's not like he still needs to go heel or complete the heel turn like Liv Morgan. He already went heel. He already lost to Sami before Mania in that gauntlet match. He lost to Sami coming out of Mania. He kind of needs to win the championship for this heel turn to be worthwhile. But I just feel like when he wins the championship, it should be at a point where the creeds are also ready to turn, which could happen on Saturday. I think it could. But I don't know if they're at the point in the story yet where they're ready to pull the trigger on that. So I'm going to say Sami Zayn retains too. I just don't know how you justify giving Gable another shot after losing a month ago and losing here. I know he wouldn't be pinned in our scenario. I agree with that. I just don't know if you can drag this on by having him lose again, only to lose it or only to win it at Clash of the Castle or something like that. So I am going to go Sami. You kind of convinced me with Sami losing on Monday. I agree. I thought that was weird. I was glad that he did lose to Gable, but kind of makes me think Gable's not winning on Saturday by having Sami pin Bronson. So I agree with you on that. Becky Lynch and Liv Morgan for the Women's World Championship. Another instance of Liv losing a lot whenever it matters most in these championship matches. She really needs a win. I know Becky's only been champion for a month, but she can lose here and it really wouldn't matter. She's bulletproof booking-wise. So I'm going to go with, if Gable's not going to win, I have Liv Morgan going over, and we have a new champion. But what do you say?
I was going to say the exact same thing. With Liv, similar with Chad, LA Knight, Jey Uso, you could scramble all these people together. They cannot win when it matters most.
Yep.
The fans are, I don't know why. Maybe because we have champions that people care about, but, 10 years ago, the seats would be on fire. People would be so out on all these people who are still somehow over. They never win it matters most. I think, like you said, Becky is bulletproof. Her championship run kind of has just been there. I don't know if there's just have her win the belt just to drop it to Liv now. She hasn't really done a ton. They have teased her in Damage Control, her and Lyra. But I think this is Liv's time. If she loses here, I don't really know how she gets another title shot.
Yeah.
I don't know how the fans don't hop the rail. I know they're in Saudi Arabia. They're not the most rabid crowd, but if Liv doesn't win here, I don't think it's ever going to happen at this point. So I'll go with Liv. I think it makes the most sense, and she can't lose again.
You got to strike when the iron's hot. That's the thing. I just feel like she has to win here because, like you said, like I said with Gable a moment ago, how do you justify giving her another championship shot in a month or at Clash of the Castle or on Raw or whatever? She already lost the Battle Royal. She lost to Becky before Mania. She's lost to Rhea Ripley a few times. She lost in the Royal Rumble. She was second place there. She's always the bridesmaid, but never the bride, and I think she needs to become the bride here by becoming the new Women's World Champion. Maybe cementing the heel turn by cheating to win. I just feel like that makes the most sense. If they want to have her lose and attack Becky afterward, cool. That was my original idea, like a few weeks ago. But that was before Liv started acting like a complete bitch on these shows as a heel. She's been in total heel mode the last couple of weeks. It's not like she's on the line. Like, she is definitely a heel at this point. So they should absolutely crown her on Sunday, or Saturday, rather, as the new champion. Queen of the Ring tournament final first. Obviously, we don't know who's going to be representing SmackDown in the men's and women's tournaments. As of this recording, we'll find out on SmackDown tomorrow. Lyra Valkyria, your girl, did advance on Monday night by beating Io Sky in the finals, or the semifinals rather. A really good match. She beat Dakota Kai 2 weeks ago and Zoe Stark last week. So she's been on a roll so far in the Raw roster, gradually getting over too. That's the key, which is nice to see. They've been booking her well. She has the Becky Lynch alliance. That makes sense. They've done right by Lyra so far. I don't think she wins in the finals, though. I do think it'll be Nia Jax. I think Bianca and Lyra is a weird matchup. I think Nia wins on Friday, somehow, someway beating Bianca, who's got the storyline injury anyway. I think Nia advances, and Nia beats Lyra, and we get Queen Nia, which is an odd thing to say, but I do think Nia is probably being primed for a championship match coming out of the tournament anyway. So who do you think is going to win on SmackDown, and who do you think's who wins between that person and Lyra on Saturday?
Yeah, I think it's like you said. I think Becky or Bianca and Lyra would be just a weird dynamic. So I think it's Nia will win. I would hope Lyra could get a win here. Like I said, maybe just pull something out. But I kind of agree with you. I think Nia's kind of getting groomed for a title shot on SmackDown. This makes sense. Lyra doesn't have to win. She can kind of like look good in defeat. Losing to Nia, who's obviously bigger than her. I feel like there could be some hope spots in there. She could win. But I'm going with Nia as well. I don't think it kills Lyra to lose here. She made all the way to the finals, losing to Nia, who's obviously significantly bigger. I don't think it hurts her, so I'm going with Nia as well.
Yeah, and if Lyra wins, that's a pleasant surprise, and that would be great too. But I think Nia winning probably makes more sense.
I don't think she can hit Nia with the Nia Hawk, whatever the fuck it's called. So
yeah. I don't think she gets her up for that. She might try to hit another move. She used to do like a friggin' leg drop or something off the top. She's had a lot of finishers over the years, did Lyra. She might try something else, but Yeah, no, I don't even think she can get her up for it. Therefore, she might win off a fluky finish or something, as she did by beating... Did she beat Io decisively on Monday? I don't remember.
No, she didn't. It was a roll-up.
Okay, it was a roll-up. Okay, you could do something similar there, but I do think Nia goes over.
I think Io went for, like, the Meteor dive, and she kind of, like, reversed it and, like, hooked the legs.
Okay, that's what it was, yeah. She didn't hit her with the finisher clean, so they can always go back to that, too.
Whatever the fuck it's called.
Yeah, so she can always go back to that, too, coming out of the show, whether she wins here or not. Gunther advancing on Raw to the finals. SmackDown, you got Randy Orton and Tama Tonga. So my worst fear has not been realized. Jey Uso did. I know, unfortunately for you, but he did not advance to the finals. We are not getting Jey Uso and Tama Tonga. It is not a Jey Uso issue. I just don't like the idea of Tama Tonga and Jey Uso in the finals. No thanks. We aren't getting it, so I'll stop complaining. We got Gunther and either Orton or Tonga. Obviously, it's going to be Orton. This one is a bit more predictable, but they could have Orton win. I mean, Orton has done everything but win King of the Ring. Maybe they can have him win and set up to face Cody at the next show or at a future show. I think Gunther is winning. He's my pick. But I wouldn't completely count out the possibility of Randy Orton winning the tournament. So, who do you got going over on Friday, and who do you got going over in the finals?
Randy's going to beat Tama Tonga on SmackDown. Tama Tonga versus Gunther doesn't even make fucking sense. So no to that. That just is dumb. So I would not do that. Then Randy and Gunther in the final. I mean, I just feel like it's Gunther all day. Maybe they give us a little surprise with Randy, but I don't know. I just feel like it's Gunther. Gunther wins LOL, and he's primed for a title shot somewhere down the line. And I guess you could do the same thing with Randy, but I don't know. I just feel like him beating Gunther just doesn't. My brain doesn't make that sound right. So
yeah,
I'm going with Gunther.
I think Gunther can hang his hat on this for a little bit. Orton will be, busy regardless. He can do the bloodline thing for another little while with Owens and Tama Tonga and shit coming out of the show. So I think Gunther wins, and I think he should. The main event is probably the most predictable match in the show, but I saved it for last anyway. Cody Rhodes and Logan Paul for the undisputed WWE Championship. So in a correction from last week, I didn't get this wrong. They did bill it as a champion versus champion match, but on SmackDown, they updated the stipulation to say, Logan Paul said it during which point, my championship is not on the line. So if they did that intentionally 2 weeks ago and made it vague on purpose, because they wanted to save Logan Paul saying, my championship's not on the line. They wanted to save that for the contract signing, then I think job well done. If they did, correct course because they saw people saying this makes no fucking sense, then that's even better. I think that's great. So either way, I think we are only getting the World Championship on the line, as we should. The United States Championship should not be up for grabs. Logan Paul did confront LA Knight backstage on SmackDown last week, so they are planting the seed slowly but surely for that match down the road. Cody Rhodes wins here. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Any other thoughts on this matchup?
Oh, I was going to say Logan. Just kidding. Like you said, Cody wins. Like I said, predictability is not always the worst, but I don't know. This is so predictable that I feel like it's kind of dumb. But Cody wins here. LOL. Hopefully we get LA Knight and Logan Paul at SummerSlam.
I agree, if not before then. Cleveland would make sense in a Logan Paul's from the area. He might not wrestle again until then, but it would make sense on that show. I liked the match. I said last week, my only gripe with it was the double title thing, which was stupid. I don't think the United States champion should be getting a world title shot only to lose. I don't love that. But the match itself, it's a fresh match. We've never seen it before. Cody Rhodes is super fucking over. Logan Paul is really hated as a heel. I like the dynamic. I don't know if it's going to be as hot of a dynamic in Saudi Arabia, but I do think the match will deliver, though. Logan Paul has been very impressive so far in WWE in the ring and in other aspects as well, but specifically in the ring. And I think he'll go in there and give a great performance before eating defeat. So that's going to be on Saturday afternoon. We got Double or Nothing again for the second straight year the next night. Interesting note, they actually did say, like, All In, or All Out rather, has been Labor Day weekend for the last 5-6 years, even dating back to that initial All In show in 2018. This year will be the first time that they don't do that, though. They're going to be doing it on September 7th. So they're actually bumping it back a week to kind of give more time in between the pay-per-views, which I like. Not the case with Double or Nothing, obviously remaining on Memorial Day weekend. First up, Roderick Strong, Will Ospreay, AEW International Championship. Pretty obvious, I would say, Will Ospreay becomes champion, but what say you, Mr. Marceau?
I mean, they left him in a puddle of his own blood last night, so I just don't see them putting him, Will, that is, in this match just to lose to Strong, who's just not over at this point. So I think Ospreay wins here, and I don't know what you do next with Undisputed Kingdom.
I know they had Wardlow come out and help them out, and we haven't seen him in a while. Maybe they start to turn him babyface again. I guess. I don't know, dude. This Undisputed Kingdom shit has been awful. Bennett and Taven aren't even on the show. They're mediocre as fuck. And I like them as a team, but they just mean nothing. Roddy's great, but again, he just doesn't really mean anything. He has a belt that doesn't mean anything. That's the problem. I think this is the demotion for Will Ospreay, if anything, because he was beating Bryan Danielson a month ago. Now he's challenging for a championship that has no real value, but maybe he can elevate it like Orange Cassidy did during his year-long reign. But I think Will Ospreay becomes champion, and like you said, I think the fact that they left him a bloody mess on Wednesday makes it pretty clear that he's going over in this match. Timeless Toni Storm, Serena Deeb, AEW Women's World Championship. I just don't get this, dude. So I like the match. I think it'll be a good match. I like the fact that Serena Deeb is back. I like the fact that she's getting a title shot. But it's so fucking confusing what the dynamic here is supposed to be. And I don't want to be like one of those, old fans yelling at clouds sort of thing where it's like, oh, who's the babyface? Who's the heel? But they don't make it clear. Serena Deeb came back and started talking about her seizures and oh man, this is a triumphant story. And then on Wednesday, she's attacking Toni like a heel. So I don't know if they flipped it. Toni Storm is way more over anyway. But then why not just ride with that from the get-go as opposed to acting like Serena Deeb is the babyface? Which she should have been, but the problem is, if you want to make the argument, then just cheer for who you want to cheer for. But then you're left with a match that no one gives a shit about because they don't know how to react to Serena Deeb. This happens all the time with this company. I do think Toni Storm's retaining regardless, but the dynamic is just all fucked up. So, what are your thoughts? Who do you think wins?
Oh, you didn't hear? Dave Meltzer said that it fluctuates every week. It depends on the crowd. You didn't know? Every other week, the crowd boos her, she's a heel. They cheer her, she's a babyface. They've been doing it all the time. You didn't know that? I mean, come on, catch up. Stop being an old man that doesn't know wrestling. So,
I know, right?
Obviously, she flips every other week. You're supposed to just go with the flow, I guess. I mean, I don't know how you didn't know this, GSM. Come on, you've been watching wrestling for long enough. You cheer, you boo, you don't. So, I mean, Tony's just a babyface and a heel. You just have to accept it. It is what it is. But no, like you said, makes no sense. Deeb was literally saying she almost died, and then the next week she's being like an obnoxious bitch, and Tony's like a babyface. Makes no sense. I mean, Tony wins here. The crowd literally could give two shits about Serena Deeb. I like Serena. She's a good wrestler. Not that interesting as a character. They tried. The fans don't care. Tony wins, LOL.
Orange Cassidy, Trent Beretta, the rematch from a few weeks ago. You would think that this is a rematch, so they would give it a gimmick or a stipulation. No gimmick, no stipulation, just a straight-up singles match. I'm glad they're doing it on the pay-per-view. I don't know how many people actually care. I think Trent's got to win this match, right? I mean, Orange Cassidy won the first one. You think it would have been flipped. Trent would have won the first one. Orange Cassidy gets his win back. I think Trent wins after interference or an assistance or an assist from Don Callis. Because they're teasing, Orange Cassidy might join Don Callis, which in storyline, why the fuck would he? That makes no sense. I do think Trent ends up joining him. They help him. Trent wins. But who do you think goes over here?
Yeah, I think Trent wins here. It seems like that's who they're pushing, so it only makes sense for him to win. I guess he could go to Don Callis' family. It's pretty meaningless, but they're pushing Trent, so I would have him beat Orange here.
Here's another one that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Jon Moxley, Konosuke Takeshita. I think it's going to be a great match, but it's not for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. It's an eliminator match, and if Takeshita wins, he gets a title shot. So I guess if you were to give him a title shot out of nowhere, people would say, how did he earn this? And I would say the same thing, so I agree with that. But here's the problem. He has to win here then. He got laid out by Moxley on Wednesday, and to lose an eliminator, because I don't think he's winning the belt, obviously. He has to win this match. And if it's like a company politic thing where they don't want to give a DDT wrestler from DDT Pro a title shot at an IWGP World title, so they're not going to put the belt on the line but still have Moxley win, that's fucking stupid. So I honestly think Moxley's going to win here. I really do. I think they are just going to have him win. I'm not really sure why they would make an eliminator if that's the case. I hope Takeshita wins and they set up a rematch for Forbidden Door or whatever. But I just get this weird feeling that Moxley's going to win here, which is pretty stupid, because in that case, why not just make it for the fucking title? But what are your thoughts on this?
I was going to say, if you're not going to do it for the title, why book the match to begin with?
Yeah.
Doesn't make much sense. Similar to what you said, I think Moxley goes over. I mean, the whole title eliminator thing just is dumb to begin with, but I think Moxley wins here.
Adam Copeland, Malachi Black for the AEW TNT Championship. Barbed wire steel cage match. Does Black get his first taste of singles gold in this matchup, or does Copeland retain?
I mean, Edge just won the belt. I hope he gets his wedding ring back. I feel like, Edge got like the best of him last night. He hasn't had the belt for that long.
I would love to see Black win. I just don't think he does.
I was going to say, I don't think he does. I think Edge keeps the belt, gets his wedding ring back, and we move on. He beat the other members of House of Black. I guess that Malachi could win, but, with the stipulation, theoretically, they couldn't help him. Copeland gets his ring back. I'm going with Copeland.
I think it's more likely that Copeland wins here and then loses it to Jack Perry, because they probably want to get a belt on him because every other member of the Elite right now has a championship. I don't love that idea, but that's probably where they're going with it. And hey, if they do that, it's better than just putting the World Championship on the guy, which would be terrible. So if you give him the TNT title, that's perfectly fine with me. FTW rules match, 3-way. God, this is awful. FTW title, Jericho versus Hook and Shibata. They literally did the exact same fucking finish that they did on NXT on Tuesday. A day later, where they did a triple threat number 1 contenders match last night, and then both Hook and Shibata pinned, I think it was Brian Keith, the bounty hunter guy. They both pin him or submit him or whatever, and they just both are awarded the winner. I thought it was a dumb finish in NXT. I thought it was stupid then, and it's stupid here. They did a triple threat just to set up another triple threat. That's fucking stupid for a belt that no one gives a shit about. I hate this formula with Hook where he wins the championship, he loses it for a month, and then gets it back. Just toss the fucking thing away. I don't need to see Hook get the belt back. Shibata doesn't need the belt. Jericho, this whole thing, I think is stupid for the most part. They're trying with it. It's somewhat interesting, but it's still like, get off my fucking screen for a little while. I know that's the point, but it's kind of like, to me, the wrong type of heat anyway, but I don't know. I really don't care about this match. I think Jericho retains. I thought Hook might get the belt back if it was a one-on-one match, but it's not. I think Jericho pins Shibata and holds on to it for longer. They need to end this feud, though. Like, no one gives a shit. It's not good. The matches are okay, but this FTW championship means nothing. So I think Jericho retains here, unfortunately. Because it probably means that Hook will try to get the belt back another time, probably next month.
Like you said, the championship itself just means nothing. I like Hook, but I feel like they're kind of they don't really know what to do with him. He's kind of spinning his wheels. I don't think he should win the belt back, so I don't need to see it every other month. Jericho at this point needs to just go away. It's not go away heat. It's just like, get off my TV, please. No one wants to be on the learning tree besides Big Bill, who is doing a lot better with Ricky Starks.
Yep.
We also haven't seen him forever. But yeah, I think Jericho retains and we get more Jericho.
Unfortunately. Yay. He's on the show every single week. Every week.
Yay, can't wait.
Shit is awful. Bullet Club Gold, I'm sorry. Well, it says Bullet Club Gold on Wikipedia. They're the Bang Bang Gang now. That's what they call them. That's what they promote them as, so I have to call them that too. They are the Bang Bang Gang. Jay White and the Guns defending the unified AEW World Trios Championships. 9 fucking belts, by the way. They come out there with 9 titles because they have the AEW World Trios Championships. They have the Ring of Honor belts, which mean nothing, so who gives a shit? But they also are still carrying around the Acclaim's version of these 6-man titles, too. So they have 9 belts. It's ridiculous. They're defending, I think they said on the show last night, it's non-title. They have to earn a title shot. I don't fucking know. I think it will be for the belts. Death Triangle, they're going to get a shot. Pac, Rey Fenix, Penta, back together. I think Bullet Club Gold, they just won the belts. I think they retain here. It really doesn't matter either way. I do think we'll get, hopefully, Jay White and Pac at some point. That sounds great. Doesn't really matter who wins here. I don't really give a shit about the belts anyway. But I do think Bang Bang Gang goes over. So what do you think?
I'm not calling him by that stupid name, but I think White and the Guns win. Like you said, they have fucking 9 belts at this point. It's so stupid. I like Pac and Death Triangle, but I don't think they're winning here. We'll go with White and the Guns, and like you said, I think White and Pac down the line would be a really fun match.
Yeah, maybe even as soon as Forbidden Door next month. Willow Nightingale, Mercedes Moné for the AEW TBS Championship. I think this will be a great match. Moné's run has not been exactly lighting the world on fire in the past 2 months, but I think she had a really good night, and the contract signing last week, she's so much better as a heel. I think she will turn officially heel here if she's not already. I think they put the belt on Willow only to have her lose it to Moné a month later. She beat Mercedes a year ago. I would love if she beat her again here, but it's Mercedes' first match in AEW. I don't think she'll lose. So either Mercedes, I would like to see her join the Elite just because she's already a heel anyway. She acts like them. Why not just put her as part of the package. I think it's more likely that they're going to have Camille debut here, the former NWA Women's World Champion. She's been signed for months, apparently. They haven't debuted her yet. I think she's going to be the new bodyguard for Mercedes Moné. I think that just makes sense. Other people have speculated. That's not a bold opinion, but I think this is where it happens. I think she debuts here, helps Mercedes become champion. Willow, maybe she gets screwed over by Chris Statlander, which they never really figured out who attacked Mercedes, and I think it was Chris Statlander. I think we'll either find that out here or afterwards. So, who do you got, Willow or Mercedes becoming champion here?
Mercedes is definitely winning here. They just brought her in. It would make no sense for her first match to come back and lose. I would not put her with the Elite. They're so bad. Not like her run's been overly great as well, but, you're going to put her and Okada with the Elite. They're two big signings. You're going to put in a group that no one honestly really gives a shit about. I would not do that. But like you said, if I didn't know Camille was there, but like you said, it makes sense if she had like a bodyguard or someone. But, end of the day, I think she beats Willow. She's way better as a bit heel, but like I said, I still don't think her run's honestly overly been good. Her promos have been meh at best, unless they've been pre-taped. Her pre-tapes have been good, but, I think pretty much anyone can have a decent pre-tape if you're already pre-recording it. Mm-hmm. So, I think she wins, obviously, but I would not put her with the Elite.
At this point, I could totally see it. I would like to see it, not because it would make the Elite more exciting. I just think the gimmicks work well together. She doesn't have to. Listen, if she has Camille debut here as her new bodyguard or whatever, then she's not joining the Elite. So let me just make that clear. If she does not debut and Chris Statlander costs Willow the championship, I could see it at some point. But she's already doing the money thing. I'm not saying she has to. I just think it would make sense. But, I really don't care about her character as it is. Would that make me care more about her character? I don't know. They like to put people in factions, and I could see that being a logical move. So we'll see what they do with her. But I wouldn't count out that possibility. But we have 2 matches left here. AEW World Championship, Swerve Strickland defending against Christian Cage. Should be a great match. I don't think there's any uncertainty surrounding the outcome, though. I think Swerve retains. Pretty decisive victory. They could do, not a non-finish like a DQ. That would be dumb. They could do some sort of fluky finish where Swerve retains to set up a rematch, but I think it ends here. So I got Swerve retaining. What about you?
I think Swerve should just retain here. Losing to Christian would be stupid. So I think Swerve wins here. Move away from Christian. Yeah.
And then we get to what I think is going to be the main event, Anarchy in the Arena. The Elite, represented by Okada, Jack Perry, and the Bucks, against Team AEW, Bryan Danielson, the returning Darby Allin, and FTR. So Eddie Kingston got hurt. He's out. Darby Allin's in. He's apparently cleared. Came out with a fucking flamethrower on Wednesday. That was unique. I'll say that much. Listen, I don't like the Anarchy in the Arena shit. I thought the match 2 years ago was trash. I thought the one last year was better. I just don't like it, especially if they're just going to do Stadium Stampede again at the, what's it called? At All In a couple months like they did last year. They did 2 of the exact same match in the same year. They've had this Stadium Stampede, Anarchy in the Arena obsession since Double or Nothing 2020. It was cool and cute the first time. The second time, okay. Third time, it's trash. Like, we just need to move on here. It's the same shit year after year. I feel like there were other ways of furthering this feud other than doing Anarchy in the Arena, but here we are. I think the Elite win. They just got together. I don't know why Tony Khan's back already. He showed up on Wednesday driving Darby Allin to the arena like he was dropping off his kid at soccer practice. I thought he broke his neck and was off the show for good. Apparently not. He was back last night. I don't know. Listen, I want to give this shit a chance, but so far it's just really has not been all that great. But I do think the Elite win here, and that's that. So, who do you think goes over?
I think the Elite go over. Like you said, I think it's been bad, but like you said, the whole Anarchy Arena, Stadium Stampede, they just need to kill it at this point. It's fucking terrible. But I think, like you said, I think the Elite win. It keeps this going. That's where they want it to go, and I guess Tony's fine. He's back, baby.
I guess he is back, and his neck is cleared to go, and he'll be maybe have a presence on the pay-per-view on Sunday. But listen, it is worth mentioning as we wind down here. I forgot to mention this before we did the predictions. 5 years to the day tomorrow. We flew out to Vegas for the first ever Double or Nothing, and then we were there for that first show. The only Double or Nothing today to not have a Stadium Stampede or Anarchy in the Arena match. First ever AEW pay-per-view. Been 5 years. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's been a while. They also had a Battle Royal that had a legless guy in it, so I guess that could that could also fill in for a stadium stampede or a anarchy in the arena. But no, yeah, 5 years. I honestly does not feel that long ago.
You were back in Vegas for, what, your sister's wedding or something, right?
My brother-in-law's 30th birthday was November of the same year.
Oh, okay. That's what it was. Hey, listen, we're out for another Vegas trip. Maybe you'll see you in Vegas next year for Mania. I already told you, didn't love it the first time. I enjoyed it a lot more the second time I was there. I now know what to expect and what not to expect, so I guess when you put it that way, it's more like, okay, I'm looking forward to being back there next. Probably not for Double or Nothing. I did consider at one point, I think I may have even said it here on the show last year, we can go back, 5-year anniversary, we can go back, but the product is just so what it is nowadays, where it's not really worth it. It'd obviously be worth it more for Vegas itself than, the show itself. But no, it was a fun time, and 5 years is crazy. So I'm sure I'll be back in Vegas at some point down the road. We will be back here next week discussing Double or Nothing and King and Queen of the Ring airing this weekend. Next week here on WrestleRant Radio. New episodes every single Thursday on all your favorite podcast platforms. Appreciate the time, Mr. Marceau. Enjoy Memorial Day weekend, and I'll catch you next week, folks.
See you later, man.
Adios.
Join Graham, GSM Matthews, and RJ Marceau every Thursday as they run down their weekly wrestling rants, offer expert analysis, host exclusive interviews, and more. Subscribe today on all your favorite podcast platforms and never miss an episode of WrestleRant Radio.